Hello again, and what's hip, and welcome back to another video. This past week marked the 25th anniversary of the Sega Dreamcast, the last Sega console, the swan song of Sega for the console market. And I wanted to make a video really celebrating that, so I decided I would talk about every single demo disc compilation that came out on the Sega Dreamcast. Now this isn't every single demo disc for the Dreamcast. This is specifically all of the compilation discs that came with a bunch of games and movies on them, specifically the ones that came out on the Dreamcast Magazine, including the couple ones that came packed in with the console. So this isn't including like demos for specific single games that sometimes came with other games. And this is all of the ones that came out in the United States. Japan had a couple extra ones. I think Europe did as well. Had some different variants and stuff, but this is specifically every single Dreamcast compilation disc that came out in the United States. And most importantly, all of the official Sega Dreamcast Magazine demo discs, which are by far, I think, the most important demo discs possibly in demo disc history, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. You can see I have my notes here. But I wanted to do something a little different because as gaming enthusiasts, I think a lot of us fall into the trap of hearing about a game and just saying, oh yeah, that's a good game, you know, so-and-so, or Revolt, you know, the racing game, that's a good game, you know, but you've never actually played it. You just, you know, you hear it through the grapevine and it's just kind of unanimously accepted as a good game, but you've never played it yourself. And so I definitely fall into the trap of that, especially with the Dreamcast games like Power Stone. Having never played the Power Stone series before, I go and say, yeah, it's a very good game, but I've never played it. I don't know actually anything about it. So years ago, I actually went out and I found all of the Dreamcast demo discs, but I haven't really played any of them. So I decided I would go through every single demo disc, record footage, and play the games that are on there, and specifically search out the games that I had never played before. And I really think that is such a magical part of demo discs that we are missing today. You know, we have free demos and stuff on like the PSN store and the eShop and stuff like that, but they are singular things that you have to go out and look for, versus back in the day when demo discs were still a thing, it often came packed in and it came with a bunch of stuff on it. So you just inserted it into your console and you had a whole bunch of games to choose from. You weren't searching for specific games, it was just they were all handed to you. And I think that was where a lot of the magic of demo discs were. And what really, I think, you know, if they could find a way to bring back demo discs today, I think that would be such a fascinating thing. Like, I really do want to know if that would help with gaming sales of certain games, you know? But anyway, let's delve right into this. The Dreamcast, I was only 1 year old when the Dreamcast came out, but it still is a very special console to me. It was one of my very first retro consoles that I went out and looked for. It was my very first Portland Retro Gaming Expo that I went to in middle school, I think 6th or 7th grade. And I found one there for $20 complete in the box, which is crazy nowadays. And it came with Virtua Fighter 3TB, and that was the only game I had to play on it for years. I wish I had these demo discs back then. So starting off, and I did record some footage of me playing these games for the first time, which I will pop up on the screen. This is possibly the most famous Dreamcast demo disc, and this is the Sega Dreamcast Generator series. They came out with 2 volumes. This is volume 1, arguably the more popular of the 2, and this came packed in with most of the Sega Dreamcasts, if not all of the launch models. And this, let me tell you, was a very powerful disc. On here we had Sonic Adventure, we had Power Stone, we had Hydro Thunder, Ready to Rumble, you had Sega Bass Fishing, and games of those sort. And it was just really fascinating putting this in, especially playing Sonic Adventure. Because a lot of the times with these old demo discs, you get earlier builds of the games that were released, you know, so some things were kind of different than the final release version. from what I played of Sonic Adventure, it seemed to be mostly the same, if not all the same. I really couldn't find any differences. Hydro Thunder was just as fun as ever, but the game that really I wanted to try was Power Stone. It's an expensive game on its own, especially for the Dreamcast, and I had never played it before, and I wanted to give it a try. So I popped it in, and I put this demo disc to use, and sure enough, this demo disc has sold me on Power Stone. It was a lot of fun. It was not exactly what I was expecting. It was almost like a 3D version of Super Smash Brothers. Really fun, really fast. And I just had such a great time. And I know for a fact that if I, grew up with the Dreamcast and I was given this demo disc, I'd be sold day one on, Sonic Adventure, pretty much all of the games in here. And that was the power of the demo discs. And so after Volume 1, you had Generator Volume 2. This also came, I believe, packed in with a bunch of Dreamcast consoles. A little later on, you had Sonic Adventure still on here. You had Railroad Tycoon. You had Tomb Raider, Rayman. You had Tony Hawk, Fur Fighter, MDK2, games like that. Not quite as strong as the first Generator, at least I didn't think. But I tried Sonic Adventure on here as well. It seemed to be almost exactly the same, if not exactly the same as the demo that was included. On the first volume, Railroad Tycoon is a guilty pleasure of mine. I love those kinds of tycoon games. I recorded myself playing Tomb Raider because I had never played Tomb Raider on the Dreamcast before. Could not figure out the controls on this thing. Rayman is a wonderful game. I didn't play it on here, but I played it on the Nintendo 64. Again, another decently strong demo disc, but not quite as strong as the first. I definitely wasn't as sold as much. And then we come into what I think is the most important part of the Sega Dreamcast demo disc history, and that is the official Dreamcast Magazine, which we had here in the United States. It went on for a couple of years, not very long. They only released 11 demo discs for that. The Dreamcast was a short-lived console, so of course it didn't make sense to continue making these demo discs, especially after the console itself was discontinued, even though there were still games coming out for it. But an interesting thing is the very first official Sega Dreamcast Magazine demo disc is marked Volume 2. There was no Volume 1. The Volume 1 of the magazine did not come with the demo disc. Volume 2 did. And so that brings us to one of the most fantastic demo discs I had ever played. Now, on the surface here, you'd probably think it doesn't seem quite as strong as the first volume of the Generator, but let me tell you, there were so many hidden gems on this thing. So this includes games such as Virtua Fighter 3TB, which is a game I grew up with, Dynamite Cop, Toy Commander, Trick Style, and there's some other games on there as well. Now, I had never played Trick Style. I tried it out. It's a really kind of fun racing game, and then I found out after the fact that it was actually reviewed quite well. But the game that really stood out to me was Dynamite Cop, and I'm so happy I captured footage of myself playing this for the first time, because I start out saying, I don't know about this. Not my favorite genre, but... And then as the demo goes on, my expressions and everything completely change. Those animations, man. Oh, let's grab that. Oh my god. All right. This game has won me over. Oh. Wow. Because it's just so much fun, and it's wild, it's wacky, it's 90s Sega at their best. It's like a 3D arena kind of fighting, shooting game. It's super wacky. The voice acting is horrible, which is great. Lots of over-the-top action scenes. But this is a game that if I were at a video game store or a flea market or whatever, I wouldn't even think twice about picking this up and buying it, because, just doesn't seem like my cup of tea. But again, this is where the power of the demo disc comes in, and really just, I mean, now I'm sold on it. Now I want to go out of my way, look for this game so I can play the whole thing, because I had so much fun playing this. And again, I think, you know, it's such a shame that these aren't around today, because I am sure that if we had an equivalent to demo discs today, that they would help sell so many more games that maybe wouldn't sell as well without a demo disc, you know, because it's being handed to us. But this is a wonderful, wonderful demo disc, and you know, I'm not one to be like, oh, you got to go out and find this demo disc. I'd probably be like, go and find the game. But if, you know, you're a little hesitant, or you just want to try a whole bunch of Dreamcast games without breaking the bank and without emulating, I would highly recommend this demo disc. Lots of lesser known titles on there. And now, after that, we came out with Volume 3, January of 2000. And Volume 3 also is a really strong title. We have Slave Zero, which was a kind of a tank robot kind of game that I had never heard of before. Apparently it was released on PC as well, and it's not super well known, but it's a mech game. You go around shooting stuff. The graphics look kind of nice. The controls take a little bit to get used to, but once you do, they're not too bad. And it's kind of set in this cyberpunky kind of thing. Again, I'd never heard of this, never would have thought twice about picking this up. I popped it in, I had a great time. And doing some research on it a little later, apparently it is a lesser known game, but it was reviewed quite highly. And then you have Street Fighter Alpha 3, you have, what else is on here? You have you have a trailer for Vigilante 8, Second Offense, you have some racing games on there. All of these have so many racing games. And they're mostly of the realistic kind. But then you have a game that blew me away in every possible way. It's called Zombie Revenge. And it's apparently kind of a spin-off of Sega's House of the Dead series. And I had no idea what to expect. Again, I just picked it based off of the title screen alone. And it is cheesy, man. It is so cheesy. Again, it's kind of like a top-down 3D, almost arena-ish kind of fighter where you just go around punching and shooting zombies. It's kind of hard, it's a little clunky, and it's timed. It feels like an arcade game, and this very well could have been an arcade game. But it's janky is all heck.
Here, take this! A man with golden eyes said to give it to you.
But it's so much fun. I had so much fun playing this. I got to the end of the demo and I wanted more. I was sold on this. And what blew me away is that these were games, I mean, all the games that I've been sold on were games that just, from my eye, looked kind of generic, didn't stand out much, you know? Goes to show, you shouldn't always judge a book by its cover. And demo discs kind of help with that. So after Volume 3, you have Volume 4. Volume 4 was an interesting one. So they introduced, there's a couple of things on here that are noteworthy. Basically, this is the first demo disc to my knowledge on the Dreamcast that included a game that was never released before, officially. And that's Sega Swirl. And I think it was included on a couple other demo discs, or maybe as a bonus kind of game later on. But it was basically a puzzle game that was meant to be played online. And with this demo disc, you could play it online. Nothing special. It's ugly. And it's not very fun. I didn't have a good time with it. And I do like my puzzle games. But it's just an interesting thing, you know, an interesting piece of history to see. And on here you have Rayman, lots of repeat games, you know, kind of showed up through these demo discs, and I'm sure they popped up with some slight changes with each iteration of each demo disc. You have Choo Choo Rocket, a classic. Then you have MDK2. Wow. What a weird game, man. The Dreamcast had some crazy, wacky games. MDK2, you play as a dog who has 4 arms, and you have 4 different guns. And you can choose to equip all of the guns at once. You can mix and match. You can have 2, you can have 1, you can have 3 guns, doesn't matter. And you go around and you shoot everything as a dog with 4 arms. But man, when you equip all 4 guns at once and you start shooting everything in sight, there's something that is so incredibly satisfying about that. I can't explain it. And again, it's a game I never would have picked up otherwise. Such a crazy game. I'm gonna go out of my way and look for it because I had a lot of fun with it. Again, these demo discs, really, I was having the time of my life going through every single one of these demo discs. Another thing these demo discs had is they had updates for like the Dreamcast web browser, which came packed in with, I believe, every single Dreamcast. So they have some updates in there for them, make it more reliable, quicker, whatever. Just another way to send out updates, you know, since there was really no, for the most part, online where they could just send automatic updates to your Dreamcast. So after Volume 4, of course, we have Volume 5. Volume 5 was a strong one. You have Dead or Alive, wonderful fighting series. You have Revolt, a very, very fun RC racing kind of game, which I was introduced to through Metal Jesus Rocks. I went to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo many, many years ago, and I won this game from his panel, and he gave me Revolt for, I think it was the PC version, and that's how I was introduced to it. He had nothing but great things to say about it, and I do as well. Very fun racing game. You have Soul Reaver, Legacy of Kain, a Dreamcast classic, of course. You have a bunch of other racing games. There's Gundam Side Story 0079 on here as well. Slave Zero again. But the one that stood out to me and stood out to a lot of people back in the day was a game called Carrier. And Carrier is a horror game. I can't stand horror games. I can't do it. I get scared very easily. Even the old, nasty, ugly-looking ones still scare me. Carrier scared me in this little demo. But you go through, you see this pretty impressive cutscene. It looks cheesy. It's like a B-movie kind of thing. But what was special about Carrier is that it was one of the first horror games to be fully 3D. You know, you had a lot of games like Resident Evil where the character models and some aspects of the game were 3D, but a lot of it were pre-rendered 2D backgrounds. This is full 3D wherever you go, and that was quite impressive. The demo lets you play about 5 minutes of the game. I didn't get that far because I got too scared, man. What can I say? But again, just a really solid demo disc here. And unfortunately, I don't have the sleeve for Volume 6, but I do have the disc right here. Now, Volume 6 was an interesting one. You had Tomb Raider again, you had Silver, you had Fur Fighters, you had Tony Hawk, Pro Skater, wonderful game. And then you have a game called Super Magnetic Neo, and there were some other things on there as well that weren't really super noteworthy. Super Magnetic Neo, I had never heard of this game before. I had never even seen it in video game stores or anything like that. So this was one of the first ones where I was like completely blind. And it is fascinating. It feels like a game that would have only been released in Japan. Super wacky characters, super colorful, cutesy, just kind of crazy all over the board, but it was released here. And basically it's almost kind of like a Crash Bandicoot type game, except you play as a magnet and you can change your magnetic waves from positive to negative, and you can use that to solve puzzles. There may be like a little pole that you can slide on, but you have to switch to the positive polarity to go and magnetize yourself up to it so you can go forward. But if you mess up and you do like negative instead of positive, it'll damage you or it'll push you away, and the same thing with enemies. It's actually quite clever. It's kind of hard. I was having a hard time with it, a little clunky in some areas too, especially with the jumping mechanics. I couldn't like line up completely, but it was a fun little game, and the demo is actually decently sized. There's several stages that you can play through, but a really interesting game. Not quite my cup of tea. However, if I were to see it, I would definitely consider picking it up, especially at a decent price when otherwise I probably wouldn't have thought about it. Volume 7 comes after Volume 6, who would have thought? This one we got into kind of the this was not a very good demo disc in my opinion. You had Virtua Tennis, you had Arrow Wings or Acro Wings, Tony Hawk again, a whole bunch of racing games. You had Sega Swirl on here again. You had another update to the web browser. Virtua Tennis is a great tennis game, but it's a tennis game. And Arrow Wings 2 was one of the ones I played. I did not have a good time with this. I was kind of thinking it would be along the lines of like Ace Combat or something like that. Wasn't really. It was almost simulatory, but it was also just kind of empty. It wasn't a good demo. The game itself might be pretty good, but the game itself is kind of clunky. It felt very just incomplete. Another game I played was San Fran Rush 2049, a futuristic racing game. Boy, this sucked. Maybe I was playing it wrong, but I did not have a good time with this. It just felt super bland. The graphics were okay. The music was non-existent, really. I didn't have a great time with this. I honestly was not sold on any of the games on here, with the exception of like Virtua Tennis or Tony Hawk, which are, mainstays. Yeah, Volume 7, not too great in my opinion. Volume 8 picked up the slack of Volume 7 in my opinion. Oh my gosh, you have some heavy hitters on here. You have Echo the Dolphin, you have Gauntlet, you have Jet Grind Radio, you have a casino game, and then you have a Demolition Racer, and you have another web browser update, and you also have a Shenmue trailer. Now, there's not a whole lot of games on this demo disc, mainly because all the games that it includes are such heavy hitters, and decent-sized demos as well. But the very first thing I popped in was the Shenmue trailer. I've never really played Shenmue before. I got the remastered ones that came out on the PlayStation 4. I played maybe 20-30 minutes and then I stopped playing. I was kind of turned off by the clunky controls and all of that, but it's always been a game that's been at the back of my mind. Oh my gosh, the trailer was amazing on this thing. I was sold. I was like, what the heck did I put down? Why didn't I continue playing Shenmue? The music was epic. You had the narrator, Shenmue.
Shenmue.
Like, just epic stuff. It really made this life simulator look really epic. And it's just a really well put together trailer. I would have been sold on this back in the day, back in November of 2000. Really great. You have Echo the Dolphin, Gauntlet, and Jet Grind Radio. And what was nice about Jet Grind Radio is it actually included some demo exclusive content. So there's some cutscene and voice acting stuff that is fourth wall breaking. Thanking you for getting the demo, one of the characters says, and he's like, go out and buy the full game, you got what it takes. And the training stage, I think, is exclusive to the Dreamcast demo. It might not actually be, or it might have been changed in the final release, but there's some exclusive demo content which was quite interesting to look back at. And again, another interesting part of history and something nice to have. And it's nice to know that you can get access to some of these earlier makes and stuff of games without having to go out and buy prototypes, it costs thousands upon thousands of dollars. You can go out, buy a $5 demo disc, and got something close, pretty much a prototype in a lot of ways. So December of 2000, Volume 9. Now, Volume 9 was another really fascinating one, and one of my personal favorites. We start off strong with Skies of Arcadia. And you press the little Skies of Arcadia button, and immediately you are thrown into this beautiful song on the title screen. I just let the title screen sit there. It was so good. I own Skies of Arcadia, so I know what the game is. This includes 4 different little subsections on the menu that are exclusive, really, to the demo disc, or alterations of what would be in the final game. You have a couple modes where you can go out and fly on the ship at an early part of the game, but it's different from the final release. There are some places in the final release you can't go, that you can go in the demo, and vice versa. You can't go into the pirate's hideout in the demo. They have a character there blocking it off with some wording, when you could go into it in the final release of the game. And also they make your character super strong in the demo, having attacks and stuff that you wouldn't have in the final release. And some of the enemies, I remember there was one enemy that in the final release, this is the very beginning of the game, is extremely resistant to physical attacks. Physical attacks don't do anything, so you have to use magic. In the demo, you can use physical attacks, it knocks him out in one hit. So just little fascinating things like that. I think there's a trailer and stuff, and just some other content too that was exclusively on the demo. I think this, especially if you're a Skies of Arcadia RPG fan, I think it's worth your while to go out and look for Volume 9 of the demo disc series. You also have Silent Scope, you have Kiss, Psycho Circus, which was interesting, Tony Hawk, Army Men, Super Boom Head Troopers, Star Lancer, some other things, racing games, and then you have Looney Tunes Space Race, another game that I had seen the cover before, but I had never seen gameplay footage. This is a very early build, or not. You can tell that it's not the final build. There's like no music. It's kind of rough around the edges. Very basic in terms of demo. It's just one track, but the graphics and the animation are spectacular. I was blown away while I was playing this. Again, it just didn't feel like a finished product by any means, and it most likely wasn't a finished product, but it was a lot of fun from what I played, and again, that animation was really, really spectacular. Makes me want to go out and buy myself a copy. But Volume 9, a very, very nice demo disc, and if you're an RPG fan, I think it's a crucial thing to have in your collection as a really interesting part of history, especially Sega history. Volume 10 is an interesting one. This is the demo disc of trailers. There are so many trailers on this darn disc. You have the Evil Dead trailer, you have Grandia trailer, you have, gosh, what other trailers are on here? Phantasy Star Online, and then the playable demos, you have like Sega Fishing, Speed Devils, Toy Commander, Holiday Mission. That was an exclusive to the demo. It was a holiday variant to one of the levels. I think you can only play this on the demo disc, which makes this worth getting in itself. But this was one of the earlier trailers for Phantasy Star Online, which was, as many of us know, went on to be one of the pioneers of the MMORPG space. A really, really important part to MMO history and RPG history, and it was very well received as well. You have a trailer for that, which makes the game look like a lot of fun. It makes me wish I grew up in the days where Phantasy Star Online was a thing. Grandia trailer, of course, an RPG classic. So the two games I dove into here was a game called Speed Devils, and I've heard of Speed Devils many times before. It's a racing game, arcade racing game, and it's almost similar to like that N64 game where it's like VW Beetle Adventure Racing. You have like shortcuts hidden throughout the track and stuff like that. That was a lot of fun. This was really quite fun. Your car goes fast. It's kind of hard to control, but I'm sure that's just me not being used to the controls. The graphics look really good. The reflections are quite impressive on the vehicles themselves. And it's just a really solid game, and I've heard great things about it in the past, and after playing it firsthand, I can attest to those great things, so I'm definitely going to be going out and looking for a copy of that. Another game on here is a game that I thought I had heard of, but I actually hadn't. It was Cow the Kangaroo. And the reason I thought I knew it was because I was thinking of Ty the tiger or something that came out on the PlayStation 2. Not the same thing. Cow the Kangaroo is a 3D kind of platformer, 2.5D kind of thing, and it's clunky, man. It is super clunky. That could very well have been due to the fact that it was an earlier build. Maybe the final release is a lot better, but the demo did not leave the best of impressions in my mouth. I did like some of the art style though. It looked quite nice, but yeah. But Volume 10 still is a very interesting demo disc. Oh, and it also includes a trailer for something called Truth. And I've been doing research and I can't figure out what the heck this is. On the little demo disc home screen, you see something that says Truth, and I'm like, oh, I've never heard of that. I clicked it, and it was a weird trailer. I don't understand what the trailer was for, but they were talking about the Printer 2000, Neo Printer 2000 or something, and it's weird. There's no context for what it's about, why it's included on the disc. If any of you guys know, please tell me in the comments below, because I am dying to know the truth of Truth. Also, I really like the cover art on this one. Now, Volume 11 is the last demo disc that ever came out, at least in the United States, and for the official Sega Dreamcast magazine. I don't have the cover, unfortunately, just the disc. Volume 11 was kind of a lame way to go out, in my honest opinion, but I suppose you can't really blame them because there really wasn't, at this point, not much to go on. So you have a game called Max Steel. You have a whole bunch of other racing games and shooter games of various levels of polish. The one that I really delved into is Max Steel because I thought the title screen looked interesting. I've never played it or heard of it before. I thought it was clunky, man. It looked kind of like Turok, at least with the environments and the fog. The controls are kind of, I believe they're kind of tank style a little bit, and graphics are kind of muddy, and the whole thing is just not the best. I didn't have a good time with Volume 11, but that was indeed the last Dreamcast demo to come out, at least through the magazine. And with all of that, that makes every single Dreamcast compilation demo disc that came out in the United States and every single magazine demo disc that came out. It was such a interesting experience going through this. I knew before I started that I was going to get something out of this. You know, I knew there were going to be games that I played that I had never heard of before that I ended up liking. I just didn't realize to the extent of how many new things there were and how many of these new things that I thought, just looking at them from the surface level, looked quite lame and generic and uninspired, ended up being some of my favorite experiences that I've had on the Dreamcast. Really, really fantastic stuff, and honestly really made me start thinking about the importance of demo discs in our gaming past. You know, we had it on the GameCube, we had it on the Saturn and PlayStation 2 as well. We had a couple on the PlayStation 3, but that's kind of where it really stopped. And it really made me think, could demo discs survive today? Is that something that is feasible? I don't think they'll ever come back, personally. But would it be beneficial to video game companies to start doing demo discs again? You know, even though you can get them for free on PSN and stuff like that, you have to look for it one by one. You have to go out of your way and look for those demos specifically, versus them just giving you a curated platter directly to you. What do you guys think? Do you think demo discs have a place in our future, in our current time? Or do you think that they could be beneficial to companies if they did find a way to bring them back? Let me know in the comments below. But thank you so much for joining me on this kind of longer video here, and something a little different that I don't usually do. I had a lot of fun making this, and I hope you guys had a lot of fun watching this, and hopefully got some information from this, and maybe even inspire you to go out and look for some demo discs yourself. But thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good one.